Good evening, YouTube. Tonight I would like to try something I would consider for me unusual. A book tag. I'd like to try the birth year book tag, started by a booktuber called Criminally. Um, so before I begin, I must preface this. I must state that I cannot say, if you say which book was your favorite, which film was your favorite, I can't say favorites because I'm not the biggest connoisseur of film, and I'm not exactly, I haven't exactly read a thousand books in my lifetime, because I'm a very slow reader. So the books I do mention are just by default because because honestly I haven't read a lot. So I can't say they were my favorites, but I can say I enjoyed them. If that makes sense. So let's begin with the questions on this tag. The first question: have you read any books in the year you were born? If so, which one was your favorite? Are there any other favorites? And do you pledge to read any within the next 6 months? And why those books? Well, I'll start with yes, I have read 2 books published in the year of my birth. And they are The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood and Chapter House Dune by Frank Herbert. I guess I prefer The Handmaid's Tale. I am a fan of the Dune series, although I'm not exactly a super fan. I was introduced to Dune through the video games, and I read most of the books, including, interestingly enough, I also read the books by Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson. Yeah, they were not good. Although I do remember just reading them when I initially read them, I thought, mediocre. They weren't classics, but yeah. And then a lot of other people who like to read and who are fans of the Dune series hate those books. Hate the newer ones written by Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson. There you go. The Handmaid's Tale, that's my favorite. I'm currently reading a whole bunch of alternate history and dystopia books. I'm also reading now a thriller to cleanse the palate a bit, to break the monotony of those books that I'm reading. I'm currently reading a thriller. But anyway, I guess I should do these little tangents, because then I'll just be rapid fire answer questions and this video would not be very, very interesting. But yeah, I guess that's my answer. And do I pledge to read any books in the year I was born in the next 6 months ahead? Sorry, I can't do that, because the way I choose books are either finding them randomly in a bookstore, saying, hey, that book looks interesting, I'll read that, or a new bookstore and secondhand bookstores. Or the second option is, I want to read that title, so I'll buy it online. I'm interested in that book, I'll buy it online. I don't like how do I put this? Strictly sticking to one author, or strictly sticking to one genre. Setting targets for what specific books to read. I'll just wing it. I'll feel my way through what books I'm interested in. So I wouldn't make that pledge of, in the next 6 months I will read 10 books published in 1985. Well, there you go. So let's read the second one. Have you read any books in the year you turned 18? If so, which ones were your favorites? Yes, I did read 2 books. Just like in 1985, I read 2 books in the year I turned 18, which was 2003. A little bit of a failure that happened that year. I flunked out of college. I flunked out. No, not. I don't think they called it college, but I flunked out of post-high school education. I'm still a little embarrassed by that. Maybe not flunked, but dropped out. So I didn't graduate from any post-high school education. That was 2003 for me, and then in late 2002, I remembered joining an anti-war protest in Australia. So those are some stories from 2003, the year I turned 18, and one story from 2002 when I was 17. Anyway, that's another tangent, but that's what makes this video interesting, right? So the books I read in 2003 are, rather, Jennifer Government by Max Barry. Now this one is a very fascinating alternate reality. Apologies for the roaring motorcycles. People here have no respect for quiet neighborhoods. People here, I just wanna throw rocks at those passing motorcycles. Yeah. You hear those motorcycles? Fuck them. Fuck them. Okay. Jennifer Government, written by Max Barry published in 2003. That one's my favorite because the only other one I read was The Machine Crusade by Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson, which is not worth talking about in BookTube. Anyway, yeah, Jennifer Government. It's a fascinating concept of a dystopia, but with too little government as opposed to too much, or too much corporate power as opposed to too much political power. So it's an interesting concept of the dystopia flipped. It's like the inverse of George Orwell, if you could say that. The inverse of 1984, the opposite of it. So it's too much freedom. Too much freedom. The book was actually very funny. Jennifer Government was actually a very... I found myself laughing. Max Barry is such a great writer. The shallow personalities, the fact there was John and John, there were 2 people with the same name. I don't know if he was being funny there by making 2 characters with the same name. I don't know if he was being funny or if it was just lazy writing. But either way, I like this book. It grew on me because it didn't explore too much in detail what life is like in this society. Look it up. I highly recommend Jennifer Government by Max Barry. And so yeah, that's the book that I read. The books that I read when in the year I turned 18 in 2003. Okay. Next question. Of the last 10 books which you read, which were published before you were born, which books were published before you were born? Do you prefer them to the newer ones? No, I don't prefer older books to newer books. I haven't drawn that comparison. I just pick out random books that I like. I don't try to notice the styles. Of the last 10 books that I read, 3 were published before I was born. First one is Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451, and Another one was a book called Revolt in Paradise by a woman who was called Ketut Tantri. It's a semi-biographical narrative of her life here in Indonesia. Her birth name was Muriel Stewart Walker. That's the author. So a lot of the elements within the book, she claims to say it's 100% a biography, 100% true story. Although people have picked through that and they said many elements in there were greatly exaggerated. And that's Revolt in Paradise. Yeah. It tells the story of her life in the 1930s Indonesia, Indonesia during the so when it was still part of the Dutch Empire, Dutch East Indies, and in the 1940s when it was occupied by Japan, and then the years struggling for independence. I didn't really like the ending because it ended on somewhat of a cliffhanger with a lot of unfinished business. So, but the third book I read, that was last 10 books that I read, that was before I was born, published before I was born, is Sinclair Lewis's It Can't Happen Here. This one I absolutely love. Oh, because Sinclair Lewis wrote, it might throw you off that he lists a whole bunch of politicians contemporary to 1935. But I liked that he was very in the moment when he wrote the book. Very in the moment. So he wrote all the contemporary trends of 1935. It was a very, very vivid window into 1930s life. So my grandfather, on my father's side, was, let me count up the years, was 16 years old at the time. He was in the Netherlands. He was Dutch. So it kind of gave me a little bit of a window into 16-year-old grandpa's life in the day. So if that helps. But it's in the United States. He was in the Netherlands. So I don't think you can really make a comparison. But my grandfather's contemporaries of that day were seeing these things in that book. So I loved It Can't Happen Here. It's by the way, it's another dystopian book about a fascist takeover of the United States. What would happen if a fascist were elected? I will actually have a review of this book in the future. Okay. I think that's all I'll say for question number 3. Question number 4. A favorite movie from your birth year, and if so, why that one? That would be in 1985. That would be Back to the Future, Part 1. I love asking myself, what if? You know, could the world have been a better place or a worse place if we had the luxury to change the past? Yeah, there are time paradoxes and all that in time travel. I guess that's why I'm a huge fan of alternate history, you know? Alternate history. I am a huge fan of it, so it has to be Back to the Future with time travel. I have a lot of regrets. What if I did things differently in the past? And that film, you know, just played into my fantasy. Okay, that was my... are there any other films I liked from 1985? There was one really cute kids film called Young Sherlock Holmes, I believe. It was a live-action film. Sherlock Holmes as a child. Look that one up. It's a lesser-known film. It was kind of cute. I like that one, so there you go. Okay, question number 5. Your favorite movie from the year you turned 18 and why? Bruce Almighty, 2003. Bruce Almighty, starring Jim Carrey. Oh, playing God. I can tell you, one of the hardest times I laughed was seeing that monkey come out of that thug's anus. Yeah, you got a Bruce Almighty, a guy who gets to play God for a few days. There you go. That's question number 5. Now in closing this video, I think this is one of my longer videos on YouTube. The 3 people I tag are TheWorstThingAboutNewBooks. I also tag the Avid Reader and yhctower. I will write down their channel names in the description. Go over to their channels and give them some love. Just as we really hope other booktubers will give me some attention. Because I really do believe I have something to add to the table. Okay, that is very self-serving, I know. But there you go. There you go. That was that's my weak-ass attempt at doing this tag. Okay, I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.